Okay. This is a galaxy. Okay, and what I've done is, so go to one end of the galaxy to the other, from A to B, which I have upside down. A to B, you have to go through the galaxy, which is 100,000 light years. But I've created a beautiful toilet paper roll wormhole here, which I then use to connect these 2 points, and they can be much closer. Now I want to show you a time machine. Watch this. Watch carefully. Watching? Want to see that again? That was it. That's it. What do I do? Well, this end of the wormhole I have taped to the background space, so it can't move. See, it's very artistic. The other end of the wormhole, I had to do a big circle in space. Say a 5 light year around circle. Now that end of the wormhole is actually moving very fast. And Einstein tells us, if you're moving very fast, your clock slows down. So, if you're on this end of the wormhole, you look at that other end of the wormhole going in a 5 light year around circle, it takes 5 years to do it. Okay? But if your friend is on that other end of the wormhole, their clocks are going more slowly. So that whole trip might just take 2 weeks for them. So that means if you go through the wormhole, you come out 5 years minus 2 weeks earlier in time. And then, let's say it's only 2 light years away, so you take a rocket ship back, you arrive back 3 years before you left. Sounds like a scam. But it's not, it's really true. If you could make a stable wormhole, you could make a time machine. And that's why it's really interesting to know if we can make negative energy configurations in the real world. Because I find it amazing that it's an open question at the forefront of physics. The 3 most fantastical things about Star Trek, warp drive, wormholes, and time machines, are not impossible, at least in principle. I would have thought before I even started to think about this that they would be the 3 things that would be ruled out completely. But they're not impossible in principle, but we just don't know if they're possible in practice. And it's an open question, and maybe one of the young people here will resolve that question and find out if we can make time machines. Now, in fact, when the book first came out, it created a big stir because Stephen Hawking had earlier said time travel was impossible. And he gave a good argument. He said if time travel were possible, we'd already be inundated by tourists from the future. And I countered him by saying they all went back to the 1960s and no one noticed. So he had to agree with me, so he changed his mind. The cover of the London Times was Stephen Hawking changes his mind in a new book. But it's fascinating. We'd all like to go back in time. We'd like to go back in time and correct the errors of our youth or relive them depending upon our mood. And so to me, the fact that we cannot yet say that time travel is impossible is an amazing facet of the universe. Of course, if it were possible, we have to deal with all sorts of really big problems, like the grandmother paradox and the paradoxes that are in Star Trek. You know, what happens if I go back in time and kill my grandmother before my mother was born? Okay, then my mother's born, then I'm not born. But if I'm not born, how did I go back in time and kill my grandmother? Think about it, it gives you a headache. That's why it gives physicists headaches, and that's why most of us suspect that time travel is impossible. But the neat thing about the universe, as I was just saying on a TV program this morning in a different context, is it is the way it is whether we like it or not. And so we may not like the idea of that causality violation, but that our not liking it doesn't mean it can't happen. We have to find out. And as I say, it's an open question.